Hey, this is Allie Edwards and welcome back to Craft the Story. In this video today, we are going to be talking about tools. As the second video in this series, I felt like addressing my most used tools and sharing those with you felt like the next step in this process, even before we get into actual documenting and storytelling processes. I am here in my house. I work from home and have, as many of you know, been scrapbooking now since 2002 and have a variety of supplies that I continue to come back to year after year, project after project. Other people probably have different tools that they come back to again and again, but I thought this would be a really fun way to kind of start off this series. So let's go ahead and dive right in and take a look at my most used tools, I would say. And I would also say, as we dive into this, there is absolutely, most likely, probably something that I'm totally forgetting, and it could be something that is very obvious, and I know you guys will tell me in the comments as soon as we as soon as I get to that point, or as soon as you realize it as well. So that's gonna be okay. All right, so for me, let's start over here on the side. I pulled out the things that I reach for again and again. These are the things that let's say if I was gonna move and I needed to pack up everything here, if I needed to take just a few things that would help me tell some stories during that time, or if I needed to do some memory keeping during that time, these are probably the things that I would use. These are the things, again, that I've come back to year after year. So first up for me is a 6-hole punch. Now I use this pretty regularly in a variety of projects. Our 6x8 albums include a 6-ring binder, and this is a 6-hole punch that, let me just pull out, let's pull something out. The holes are at the same size, or in the same place as the page protectors. So you can use this to be able to punch holes to add things directly into your album, especially if you like to work outside of the page protectors, which is something that I really do like to do. So 6-hole punch, this is obviously, I think it's made in Japan. There are other versions of this available. This is the one that I've been using for a number of years now, and it works really well for me. I do need to have a second hole punch though, in addition to this one, because there are times when I want to add something that is a lot thicker into my project, and this can't accommodate all of the different widths of things. So I have a couple other tools that I use. One is a newer tool, and it's from We Are Memory Keepers, and it's another hole punch. And the thing that's awesome about this particular tool right here is that it has 5 different hole sizes. So that makes it awesome for choosing what hole size I want. Sometimes I want a bigger one, and sometimes I want a smaller one, depending on how I'm gonna use it. This is thicker than the 6-hole punch, but it's still not super thick. So when I want something super thick, then I do have a power punch, and this is from We Are Memory Keepers also. This one is that thick, if you can even see, I'm not sure, but you can flip up the little thing here to be able to see where you're gonna punch a hole. It's about a 1/4 inch, I would say, is the size of this hole punch, but this one lets you go through even thicker materials. That has been the case over the years. So those are the hole punches. I use a metal ruler all the time. When I first started memory keeping many moons ago now, I used to use a ruler and an X-Acto knife for cutting everything. I didn't even use a trimmer at that point in time. It's a very precise way of cutting, and I loved it. So this is a metal ruler that has the cork on the back, which lifts it a little bit up off of your page. It's great for cutting with a craft knife. I don't do that as much anymore, but what I do use this for is I'm measuring things all the time. I measure things on my projects. I measure how much space available I have for embellishments, for journaling. I measure the space before I go over to my computer to type out journaling. So some kind of a ruler has always, is something that I probably use every single time that I stand here at my table and make something. And I'm always looking for it, and people try to take it, and I come after them around the house when they have it. All right, so cutting tools then also. The trimmer that I use is the FISKARS rotary trimmer. I have been using this one for probably 4 or 5 years now, I would say, and I've actually purchased it a couple of times, like repurchased it once I thought that it had met its end, and then some nice person along the way let me know that you could buy replacements for this piece right down in the middle. This is like a, there's a specific name for it, and I know, let's see if I can figure out what it is. Somewhere in here I have replacements for it, because what happens is when you use a tool like this, especially with the rotary where it has the blade and the inside here, it's creating a divot along here, and after a while it doesn't work as well anymore. And so you can actually pull this thing up, flip it over, adjust it around so that you aren't going back over the same grooves over and over again. I was gonna see if I had, yeah, so here's what that looks like. So it's a cut bar, it's a two-sided cut bar. Again, I tell you that I had been memory keeping for years and years and years before I learned that this was a thing and that I could purchase this, and we learn as we go. We all learn as we go. That's just what happens. So you can purchase the bar, and then you can also purchase, let's see if I have any of the blades, the rotary blade replacements here. It's always really, really nice to use a sharp blade when you're cutting paper. I love this one though. I would purchase it again. Recommended for sure. Definitely like it. And I'm only showing you things today that I have that I feel fully confident in recommending to you. All right, so let's talk about a couple other things here. We'll just kind of move over the page. This is a stapler from Tim Holtz. It's called a tiny attacher. I use this almost on every project as well. The difference between it and a normal stapler is that the staples are smaller. It is one of my favorite ways to attach embellishments, and I probably have staples to last me forever. Actually, Tim is a friend of mine, and they recently sent me like a 6-pack just of the refills for this, and that kind of made my year there for that. So use this one super regularly. It's great for attaching things that don't have adhesive on them, plastic pieces, things that, you know, I don't want to have 500 different kinds of adhesive, so this is an easy way. And I also really like how the staples give a bit of texture to the page, especially when I do hybrid sorts of projects. Hybrid means that I'm using some digital products in paper projects, so I'm printing things out and then I'm layering actual physical products on top of those, and I'm using a tiny attacher often to adhere them on. Another way that I stick things down is just with a rolling adhesive. This is my favorite one. It's made by SCOTCH. I order many refills, and I'm looking around because I had a whole bunch of refills somewhere around here right now, but I keep these in a drawer here in my box, or in a box in my drawer, and I have a whole bunch of them, and I then just buy the refills and then add them into these, and I like to have lots of them available so that anytime I need a new one, I have those right there in my drawer. So that's the Scotch Dawn roller. And then the other adhesive that I have that I often use is red line tape. And this, we have some of this in the shop. You can also get this on Amazon or other craft stores. This is basically double-sided tape, and it is pretty clear. I've used it on some plastic pieces sometimes. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. But this I use for acrylic. and other sorts of things that I want to adhere onto my pages, and definitely something that I come back to. Rubber, I use the red line tape for rubber as well. All right, so other things we have here, I have a rolling date stamp. This is one of my most favorite tools that I come back to again and again. I always advocate for adding a date onto any of your projects. Whenever I go back into looking at my past projects, past layouts, and I don't have a date on them, I am very disappointed in myself. So I really try to remember that, and having a rolling date stamp like this, super easy to just stamp it right onto your page, and it doesn't have to be like in the middle of the page. Sometimes I just do it down in the corner. And when I'm dating things, I most often date them when I'm working on them or when I'm telling the story. Kind of there have been times where I'm going back in time and I know the dates of a particular story, like if I'm working backwards in project life, 2016 project life, I am able to find out what those dates are, then I will use a date stamp for that particular point in time. But if I am here working on a project for, you know, that's a story that I'm telling today about something that happened last year, but I'm still, the voice is from today, then I'm gonna stamp today's date on there. Just a little thought on that. One thing, when you purchase these, you will want to find out what the date range is on them. So I have an older one that goes back farther, which is nice for being able to go back and date previous projects. And then this one I have right here goes to, I think, it's kind of crazy to even see that. 2029 is when this rolling date stamp goes to. Now with the rolling date stamp, I almost always use STAZON ink. This is black STAZON. If I was only going to purchase one ink, this is the one that I would pick up. Great for the date stamp, great for all of the other stamps that we have in my shop. We have a whole collection of stamping ink, and that is a whole other path that you can go down. Today I'm really just kind of talking about the basics, and for me, black is the most basic, and STAZON is the best because you can stamp directly onto photos or any other slick surfaces, and it is a permanent ink that will stay on there. So if I was if you're brand new and you're just watching this, this is the ink that I would start with. It can stain your stamps. Most of the stamps that we have, I'm just looking at like a set like this, you know, are black already, so it's not going to impact that at all. But STAZON is definitely the ink that I would start with. Also related to stamping, if you are starting off with a couple different stamp sets, these days all of the stamps that we offer and most of the stamps that I use are all acrylic stamps, and that means that they are clear. I'll pull out a set here. They are clear, and you need to, or you will want to, cling them onto something. My technology or my words here are gonna get word salad today. But you wanna have something that you can put these onto before you stamp them. And so let's grab one of these. I'm gonna grab the B here. This is off of an alphabet set. And then I have acrylic block. So I have a couple different block sizes here. One is a circle one, and then the other one is a larger rectangle shape. And what these do is, this is where you place the stamp on top of them before you put them in the ink, and then you stamp them on your project or your page. So this is a way basically to hold them. I love the circle one. It has a grooves for your fingers. That's really nice. The other thing that you can do if you buy like one of the things that we did when we created inks for my brand is we have clear clear lids on our ink pads, because you can also use that as a block for your stamping. And this is just going to help you get a nice clear and consistent stamp when you place it down on your project. So that is a look at the blocks there. Again, like I said, you can also use just the lids of the ink pads that we have in the shop. Other things that I have here that are some of my go-tos. I have one punch, circle punch here. I have quite a few circle punches in a variety of different sizes. This one is from EK Success and it's a 2-inch circle punch. And out of all of the different products and things that I've encountered over the years that I've been involved with this, circle punches still continue to be one of my most favorite. So you can buy them like this where they are flat. These ones are nice because they store flat, but I also have big ones. These are from Marvi Uchida, I think is the name of them. I've had these forever and a day and they still work great. And I love these because I like shape-based things often when I'm creating projects. I like working on a grid. I like repeated shapes. Tools like this make it really easy to make that happen. And I have them in a variety of different shapes. Most of the ones that I've hung on to over the years are the very simple shapes. So like this is a giant circle. I think this is a 3.5 inch circle. I have a couple different square ones. I also have a square, this is a passport punch that you can punch 2-inch squares, which is really cool if you're working with divided page protectors. And we have a divided page protector that has a bunch of 2-inch squares. This is a great tool for that. This is actually for literally for passport photos. Somebody brought one of these to one of our events one time and I saw it and I was like, that's perfect. For some reason, the scrapbooking manufacturers in the past that have made punches, they were always making them not exactly 2 inches, but this one is 2-inch. It's great. It's another option for punching. And again, remember that you don't have to have all of these things, right? You don't need to have that punch. You can use a ruler and a craft knife. You can use a trimmer to cut something into a 2-inch, especially for a square. Circle, a little more challenging. So the circle ones are really, I think, for me, the ones that I continue to be very thankful that I have in my arsenal of tools here. Also scissors. Scissors are something that I use on just about every project. I pulled out 2 here. These are also from FISKARS, so a larger size and then a smaller size. For many years, I only had the larger sized ones, and as I started trying to cut more things out, or fussy cut is a term, fussy cut things, or cutting shapes out of journal cards, I've definitely found that having some of the smaller like micro tip kind of scissors, that is a great thing to have in your stash of stuff. I actually keep multiple pairs of scissors in my office because they are always getting taken and borrowed but not returned. If you have children, you probably know, or if you have someone else living in your house that likes to cut things and you don't have enough other scissors, or all the other scissors have walked away, that's what happens around here. So I am often finding my scissors in places where they are not supposed to be. So scissors, great. Oh, one other adhesive that I was planning on talking about, but I forgot, is these are foam adhesive squares. And what I love about these, and I use these regularly as well, is that they can add dimension to your page, right? They allow you to add adhesive onto something that lifts it up a little bit off of the page, and that adds to kind of the dynamic feel of the page, so that everything isn't flat, that you have some variation in terms of some things that are taller, some things that are flatter. That can just be fun, and it also looks good from a design standpoint. So foam adhesive squares are something else that I have and use very regularly. I also grabbed a few pens to talk about here. Pens can be very personal, if you guys have encountered this before. And if you are somebody that is, doing most of your journaling and printing from the computer, you probably don't really need to have a selection of pens. What I really like to have in pens is I like to have some that are very thin, some that are a little bit thicker, and these are black. I mainly just use black pens in the sorts of projects that I do. And then I also like to have a white option. So the white option that I have found that I really enjoy is a Posca paint pen. And I will link those for you. They have a variety of different tip sizes, and I like to have a thick one and a thinner one. These work great on top of photos when you want to write with white on top of your photos. And I'll try to put a link in the a link down below. I've got a couple different blog posts that I've done in the past that talk about white pens specifically. But in terms of the other pens, like I like to have something again super thin, like an 003 or something like that. And then also have a thicker one, like a Slick Writer. In my shop, we have a precision pen, which is a .03, and I use that very regularly. And then we also have the Slick Writer option, which is designed specifically to be able to go on photos, and there's a couple different tip sizes for that too. There's a fine and a medium and probably a bold too. I think the medium is the one that I reach for the most. When I'm doing hand journaling, I like to have the option of having a thick and a thin pen and playing back and forth with the contrast between those two in my journaling, and I like the look of that too. And this is just another a variation on that. All right, let's see, what am I skipping, or what do I not have here? You know, other tools for me, obviously I use my computer quite a bit. Here in my office I have an iMac. I've been a Mac person all along. I use Photoshop for editing my photos. I am actually just using iPhoto now. That's a question that I had a lot of in the past. In the past, I used Aperture as my photo management program and had planned to move to Lightroom once Apple stopped supporting Aperture. But as I reflected and kind of thought about what did I really need out of that program, I decided to try using iPhoto first and see if that was enough for what I wanted to do with my own photos. And I'm finding that it is in terms of organization. So I'm just using iPhoto for my photo organization right now. I'm still editing in Photoshop. That's just because that's where I've been doing it all along, and that's a simple part of my personal process. And then I do any digital scrapbooking or journaling sorts of things within Photoshop. And we have a whole workshop that's called Hybrid if you want to learn more about using digital products within paper projects. A lot of the people on our creative team do it that way, where you're able to play a little bit more with the products that we offer. You're able to make things bigger, make things smaller, a little bit more freedom of creativity with the designs that we produce on paper products. You can play around with those to create some of your own things. So computer is very important. I also use an iPad and Procreate for designing and all the handwritten things that you see in any of the products that we create. Those are done in Procreate on my iPad, and then I send them to Illustrator, which is another program that I use as well. But I think that in terms of the very basic things, you know, this is definitely my starting place. Having these tools, having some white cardstock, that's really the only color of cardstock that I have anymore is white, and I'm totally comfortable with that. Happy to have just white cardstock that becomes the base of most of my projects, that and or pattern paper. At this point in time, I don't have a huge stash of pattern paper. I've really kind of adjusted over the years and am keeping a lot less of that. Part of that has just kind of been the ebb and flow in my own documenting processes. If you're just starting out, I think having an album is a great place to begin, because once you start either making layouts or you are working on a project, you want to have a home for those things. You want to have a place for those things to go. So 6x8 albums is what I use the most. I still have some 12x12, and we can talk about this more again as the year evolves and we get more into playing with layouts and doing some different storytelling sorts of things as well. Let me grab just a 6x8 album so you guys can see what that looks like as well. So in our shop we usually, whenever we do a product release for a project, there is often an album that is available, or multiple albums that you can choose from if you want to. We also have pleather 6x8 albums, and this is one of those. They come with page protectors inside. Some of our project albums come with more page protectors inside, and we also have those in the shop. And again, then it just depends on how much do you want to work inside the page protectors and how much do you want to work outside of the page protectors? I have a pretty big collection of page protectors here, which is fabulous for holding your stories, right? Like holding them inside. I'm going to show it just on the face forward camera here, for, you know, a great holding place for them, right? And I think that this album itself, oh, there's a few things that are outside of the page protectors, but many of them are inside. And you can see not everything that I do is completely finished. Like this is the back side of a project there, but here's one that's outside of the page protectors. I'll turn around this way. This is a project that we did last year called Pieces of Me, and this was how I chose to document it here, but in this project anyway. And this is outside of the page protector, and you can see where I used the 6-hole punch there to be able to add this into the album. Here's another one that's outside of the page protector that has a variety of different photos, or 4 different photos that came together, telling some story about going walking and walking in the fall, which is one of my favorite things to do here. And then doing a half circle for the journaling that goes along with that. But anyway, 6x8 is one of my favorite sizes. I really enjoy it. And we have those available in the shop. And I think if you're just starting out, 6x8 is a really nice size. Again, it's up to you. You can go for 12x12. The awesome thing about 12x12 is that you can always go smaller within the album itself, right? You can make different page sizes and add those in. With 6x8, obviously you can still adjust the different sizes of the pages, but as you get smaller, then you have less options in terms of the page size. So for me, I like to have, you know, a 12x12 album going that can hold some of the stories from the year as well as the 6x8. But I think we'll probably do a whole video. I will do a whole video just talking about album organization and those sorts of things, and that'll probably come up here in the next few weeks. I think if we start the year off, or start this series off by talking a little bit about basic tools, basic organization, basic album choices, those kinds of things, I feel like that is a really good place to begin. From here, right, these are the basic things. And from here, then you can add in a variety of other things. You can add stamps, you can add cards, you can add pattern paper, you can add embellishments. It opens up a whole other world of all kinds of fun things, and I think we'll talk more about that later on. All right, before I wrap up this video, I just finished editing it here on the computer, and I realized that there's a lot of like blur, autofocus, or focusing stuff going on. So that's something that I'm gonna be working on here for myself this year as a part of my own learning process, which that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to show up to do, is to learn. But I also wanted to mention printers, because I know printers are a huge piece, especially for me as somebody that prints from home. And as I was rewatching the content that I recorded earlier today, I kept thinking, okay, printers too is additional stuff that would be good for you guys to know, especially if you're just coming here for the first time. I have a post about the printers that I use, and I can easily link you guys to that. And I also figured I would just show you them right now, just so you could see what I use here in the office. At this point in time here in the office, I have 2 main printers that I use for memory keeping. This is the first one, and it is an EPSON PICTUREMATE PM400. It prints up to 5x7, so mainly 4x6, 5x7. You can adjust the sizes in Photoshop to be able to set up custom sizes for yourself that would print on those sizes of papers. This one I use very, very regularly. Love it for the 4x6, love it for the 5x7. I've had multiple versions of this printer. I had earlier versions, and it's just a great workhorse, and I use it really regularly. So I love that guy, highly recommend him. And then if we come over here, we'll swing over behind me. This is the other printer that I bought in, I think 2019 is when I bought this one. And this is an EPSON XP 15000 printer. And what I love about this one goes up to 13x19, so you can print oversized pages. This is what I use for any of my full page photos, and then pretty much anything else, because this is the other main printer that I'm using for memory keeping. I've been really happy with it, happy to recommend it. It's worked great, and it is a really significant price drop compared to other oversized printers that I've had in the past, which is fantastic. Great for us as consumers. Printing at home is super important to me because I need and want the flexibility and ease of being able to do things immediately when I want to. I also have a couple other printers here in the office. I have a color laser printer and a black and white laser printer. We use those more for handouts, and if I'm going to use the Minka machine and I need that a toner print, that can be done on the laser printers as well. But I will, I'll link you guys to the printer post. You'll see in there that there was a Canon that I've had in the past too. It worked just fine, but I wanted to consolidate a little bit, and that's why I ended up with the EPSON XP 15000, and that can print up to 13 by 19. If you were only going to get one and you wanted to have the ability to print oversized, you wanted to have a wider range, I would definitely go with the XP 15000. But if you do a lot of Project Life and you mainly just want 4x6 prints or maybe 5x7, depending on what you're doing, the PICTUREMATE is fantastic. If you guys have any questions, let me know. This is, again, just basic tools that I've been using for a number of years that I'm super happy with. I would love to hear, what are some of your basics? What am I missing? Let me know in the comments below. And we'll see you guys back here again next week for another episode of Craft the Story. If you are enjoying these videos, please subscribe so that you don't miss one. These are going to be coming out again each Friday over the course of this year.